I'm Shajal Mohiyadeen from Riyadh. I have had the privilege of serving 100 plus clients, both from government and from the private sector, covering 3,000 plus installations, mainly focusing enterprise access control and time attendance systems. The typical difficulties which we normally face for the structure of companies with offshore centers and very limited internet facilities could be divided into three. First, like when you are doing the enrollment of the employees with the biometric credentials, the bandwidth could be huge and the traffic will not normally be supported by the internet infrastructure. Second is when they are doing the actual transactions like punching in or punching out, or if you're taking the cafeteria or if you're taking the access control, the real time syncing faces issue. Third could be the actual extraction of the reports and the request and approvals with the ERP, wherein the employees and the management needs to have seamless integration of the system. So in total, you face challenges in all these domains or with the limited internet facilities. Some of the pressing issues of the companies of not having a proper access control system could be the retention of the employees and the control of the location itself. Considering the geography of Saudi Arabia, you could see that the total labor cost attributable to the total project cost is huge due to various reasons. Plus, there are different far like offshore locations, plus distant locations where we'll have to depend on the system's credibility to monitor and control things. So if you're not having a proper access control or time attendance system there, the retention of employees will suffer due to lack of proper attendance monitoring, because the same is directly attributable to the pay slip of an employee. Second is mainly due to the monitoring and control, wherein you will have to depend on credible systems to check whether they are actually investing their time there, marking in on time, and if not, whether it is getting escalated to the supervisor and from the supervisor to multiple levels for understanding whether they are actually there. When we are talking about similar projects, we have implemented the same system for L&D in Madan sites where they had remote locations in almost in the middle of desert where they have very limited internet connectivity. So there we have implemented portable terminals for marking the attendance, which was connected to the centralized server using the GSM. And in regular intervals, this punches were getting synced with the server using the GSM channels with a very limited bandwidth. So this was one ideal scenario wherein we could implement our systems with very limited internet connectivity. So we used to run the syncing of the system in batches in regular intervals so that the real time syncing was not so mandatory. So this will not largely affect the request and approval process or extraction of the report, because every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes we used to sync the data with the server, which was quite okay in case where there are 2 to 5 or maybe 10 plus shifts for that matter. So we could resolve this scenario using the portable systems with GSM connectivity in remote locations. Talking about the recent project in Aramco rigs, this experience have actually helped us a lot, because by then we already had a calculator for doing the transaction and the bandwidth consumption for the transaction and onboarding of the employees. So when you're discussing the same things with a new customer who is actually having this serious concern, it becomes very easy to communicate and connect, because you already have the experience of connecting or implementing the system wherein the customers are facing the same kind of pain areas. If you talk about a customer like Aramco rigs, where they have very limited knowledge as to what is happening in the sites offshore locations, they need to have a proper control in place. Plus they need to have an accountability to do the payment or when it is calculated on a per hourly basis, or when they are doing the overtime for public holidays or weekly holidays, and like rostering process or shift assignment, and when somebody falls ill or so, there should be a proper mechanism to request and change the shifts, so that employees feel free to access their supervisors and the supervisors feel easy access for the system to reallocate the schedules, and this in turn help the organizations to retain the employees, to make a conducive and productive environment, and to have a better control and the dependability on the system. So this actually helped us a lot in implementing systems with remote locations with limited internet liabilities. We don't wait for a big project to start to face the challenges. Instead, since we are having an experience of 12 plus years, we always assess these are the areas where we could face challenges. So in such scenarios, what we normally do, if at all there is a bandwidth issue, we try to calculate, and this normally we request the customers to do the POC in their toughest site, so that once this is cracked, rest everything falls in place. In such scenarios, like 90% of the cases, we have deployed POCs and integration also. Of late, we are even requesting the customers to integrate it with their ERP, including SAP, SuccessFactors, HANA, or if it is Microsoft Dynamics, or you name it, we have it. We are ready with all the web APIs or data integration tools. In detail, we have we can make discussions with the ERP team, ERP consultants on two aspects. One, what needs to be integrated, how you need to do the integration. Some might prefer on-premise deployment, and some might prefer for cloud infrastructure. So based upon the customer needs, when we are asking this question, normally customer will initially lay the foundation for just marking the in and out data, then to the time attendance, then the integration, then they go for the complete process. So initially, when we are taking a terminal or doing the pitching for a customer, you are requesting for the complete POC, correctly identifying the pain areas, which brings in a lot of confidence and comfort for the customer, because for them, you are like a consultant, and you are more like a partner for them, where they could address, or they could highlight or escalate all their pressing issues to you. And you have already a case study wherein somewhere or the other you have come across in your long tenure in such scenarios, and you can always give a reference of the existing customers. So it makes simple. And most of the cases, it is just a matter when people, like some key employees, leave, we face some challenges, because again, a new key employee is onboarded, we have to come back, and when we have to revisit all those agreements which we have done previously. So apart from such minor factors, we never used to have any major challenges and fierce competitions in this regard, at least. Coming to projects where we have done the complete integration of the system, as I told you before, the customer either will prefer cloud, and of late there are new mandates, especially for the public sector companies and for the ministries, that the data should be inside the kingdom. So we have options like Oracle or Alibaba, or even others are also coming up with similar infrastructure. But you could see that some of the customers are not having a perception that time attendance data is not that sensitive. So they are okay with AWS or any other standard known vendors for the cloud hosting services, which we normally recommend to have India or Singapore or US, wherever it is. Coming to the security concerns which the customers have while doing the integration, especially for the public sector, like we had recently started deploying the system in King Abdullah Petroleum Research and Studies Center, which is very sensitive premises, also in Ministry of Culture. So in these two phases, like these two projects, we are facing very strict and tough protocols and systems and procedures to do the test environment, and then move to the live. So there they have cyber security audit, and there are so many procedures to check, and we have to go through all this process to make them comfortable and make them confident that this system is vulnerability free, and this is up to their standard, matching their standard. So we normally recommend GDPR compliant, AI compliant, cyber security complaint like VAPT or GDPR, which are non-platforms. And if there are any other standard platform, we always recommend vendors to go ahead and get it certified, because now the data security is something very sensitive and the customers are really serious about security factors. Cases wherein we faced a major technical difficulty was in couple of sites. I don't want to name few. A public limited company was having ransomware attack wherein the data was lost. But as I rightly pointed out, our data is not so sensitive because it's related to attendance, mainly covering the productive hours of an employee, nothing related to financial or confidential information. But there are companies who are billing these hours. For them, it is sensitive data. So what we could do, already there was a standard backing up mechanism wherein we have already taken backup. So the same was restored and the system was back to live. So this is like an evolving process wherein we understand, okay, these are the situations and these are the threats which we could always expect. So we insist the customers, we document it properly, and we always put down the project management plan in document. And if at all there is a delay or there is a change, we again revisit the project management plan and always try to document it and keep everybody in the process updated on a real-time basis, which helps us a lot in not having an issue later on. After overcoming the crisis, we could observe that the companies were more serious in following the procedures and guidelines or standard practices, wherein they could observe that, okay, this set of instructions which they are bound to follow has actually saved from this disaster. Or if at all there was a data loss, they redo and revisit the procedures. Then they make sure that, okay, this, and we never face a scenario where that they have committed the, clients normally tend to ignore in the sometimes, no, they ignore to in the first instance, but later, like once the attack or something happens, which unwanted, like unforeseen events happen, then they tend to revisit the procedures and policies. Then they try to follow it as an actual policy itself. Always there are certain challenges when implementing the new system, and change management and knowledge transfer is really difficult. So these are the key areas wherein you have to take initiative from the vendor side or from the implementation side. We have to make it more easy and accessible as much as we can. So we always try to document things, and plus we create videos, we make training into levels wherein it is not overloaded, so the knowledge transfer becomes systematic and easy. And in between, we try to give a space for them to understand and settle things down, so that it is easy and it's a normal and organic way of transformation. As I have already explained, final audit we used to come out successful because initially there will be a POC for the test. Like for the most of the final audits, we used to come out successful due to the reasons which I have already told. Like initially we start with a minor POC implementation, then in a test phase, then we go in phases, especially for the major customers. If a customer is having one head office and 150 locations, we go in phases. So initially there will be POC for one location. We integrate the data with the ERP, the HR, make sure that things are running fine, and try to do some exceptions, try to do some request approvals, everything. So once the client is satisfied, okay, this is happening as per their policies and procedure, and that is actually matching their expectation, then it goes and it rolls down to various other locations. So it is not like we go like in parallel, but most of the cases it go in phases. And the toughest part, which is like implementing and doing the integration with the ERP and fetching the reports, all those things we try to do it in the initial instance itself, so that this once this critical phase is covered, rest is like it's like cut, copy, paste. So it becomes very easy for us to implement. The most significant impacts of access management system was the control of different location, including the head offices, and second is the discipline, and third is like assessing the project cost, and taking a control on the same. And last one would be having a digital transformation for the request approvals, and which in turn helps to retain qualified or potential employees with the company itself. So I myself see as a enterprise access management or time attendance specialist, wherein I was fortunate to implement such systems in very good clientele, including Aramco Total. If you talk about Access Control, Dr. Sulaiman Al Habib, or Sahel, or Sasco, Ministry of Culture, and the list goes on. As a professional, we used to get recurring orders and references, and even when somebody leaves, key employee of an organization leaves, we used to get reference, or they themselves try to rebuild the relationship because they have a very favorable experiences with us, so they try to reinitiate the relationships. So as a professional in this part of the world, we are always connected to our previous customers, especially one person whom I would love to recollect is Dr. Irshad Ismail, who was the IT director of Dr. Sulaiman Al Habib. Still, we are in touch. The most significant impacts of implementing a proper time attendance access control system would be to take the control of a location, which includes head office. Second is the retention of employees, attributing their cost to projects, which again in turn helps the management to analyze the project cost and the flow and the trends so that they can be more productive. And the third one would be to have a proper digital transformation wherein the employees or the management will feel the change, wherein they could have a proper request and approvals, and which in turn makes a conducive environment for the employees, which in turn helps the management to retain good employees.